What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. We appreciate your support and join if you haven't already. Now today, man, it's the honor and the privilege of a lifetime, man. My good friend, Schoolie D. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Oh, I had no choice. Pick me up at the hotel.
Hey, man, you know, that's how we do.
So get in the car.
Yeah, that's what I do. But we're here at Escarpment Studios here, Huntington Park, California, right near downtown LA. Check it out if you can, 5610soto.com. Great place, definitely check us out. Now today, because it's Schoolie, my favorite rapper of all time, my good friend, we're gonna go through some of his records. We don't normally do this type of thing, but Schoolie's special, that's why it's special.
Right.
Now, Maniac, man, world famous records. This is what really jumpstarts things, 1984. So, Gangster
That
Boogie.
record was made in 1982.
Because
It was on Schoolie D Records.
Schoolie D Records started it all off in 1983.
Yes.
So, how and why was there the discrepancy with having it world famous and Schoolie D Records?
Well, it was selling really good in Philly and Jersey on Schoolie D Records. And I met a guy, Alan Lott. He was a national record promoter. And he came to me and said, well, if you wanted to start to sell in Trenton, New York, and Delaware, go up and down the Eastern Seaboard, I can help you out with that. So I said, okay. So then the day we signed on the contract, I said, yeah, but it can't be your name because I'm involved, so we got to come up with a name.
Okay.
And we came up with World Famous Records, which was, you know, about a week later I found out there was already, we had a name for that shit, World Famous fucking Records. But it did, he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Which is rare.
Which is rare. He got it up to Trenton, got it in New York, he got it down in D.C., Southern Jersey. It started selling, and he did exactly what motherfuckers like that do. Start taking off the top.
So
once I found out, it was
there
just like, dude, I don't need this bullshit. It's like, that's why I started my own record label.
And with that being said, to have the idea in 82 to make records and then to launch Schoolie D in 83, how and why, I know we've talked about this, but break it down for everybody.
Well,
why you did that.
My father was telling me, it's like, man, it's like, you could be a novice for so long, but you're professional. I was a professional, and I wanted to compete with professionals, and I studied my whole life. I played guitar in my family's band since I was like 7 or 8, and I played drums and bass, so I was an artist, and I knew there was no way I was not going to do this.
Right.
And, you know, and the subject matter.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The subject matter. But even a little bit with Maniac, they were like, took the girl, laid her down on the bed. People were kind of like, should we be playing this? Like,
right.
Yeah, of course you would. Fucking, it's like Luther Vandross, anybody else talking about making love. It's like it's a girl from outer space with big titties. You know what I'm saying? Of course you want to lay her down on the bed, but when you flipped it on the other side, that was the Gangster Boogie that was a street favorite from 1981, 82. It was like, as soon as it came on, it was like, my age is young, my money is green. I shocked all the bitches with my gangster lean. Once you hear that, it's just like, you knew it was different.
It was different.
You knew it was different because it was like, who allowed this motherfucker to say this shit? Who are allowed, and as anybody knows, I'm a huge Richard Pryor fan, and it was just like, and that's my base. And it's like, because anything that anybody could say, like, well, you cussing so much, don't you want to be on TV? Richard Pryor was on TV.
Right.
Don't you want to make movies? Richard Pryor made movies. Don't you want to be on the radio? Richard Pryor was on the radio. Of course, it was like after midnight, but I don't give a fuck. Richard Pryor did all of that shit.
Yes, he did.
So, and I was, as I like to say, I was beautifully ignorant. Because the first song I heard on FM, the two songs was Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog and Get Off Your Ass and Jam. And this was like 12:30 in the afternoon on
Wow.
WDAS FM. Everything was AM before that. Then all of a sudden somebody said, Georgie Woods was like, turn on FM is a new thing. And you know, all of a sudden you hear, because in AM you don't hear any bass.
Right.
All of a sudden you heard that.
It's a different frequency. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just like kind of like, so to me growing up with that, and me also growing up with like, it was just known that if you wanted to really hear like the real record, you just wait until like 12:02. You know what I'm saying? When the station manager's gone and the DJs could play what they want to play. And a lot of that stuff was played with the cussing in it. So I was young enough and ignorant enough to think that I could do the same thing.
Get off your ass and jam. We got Am I Black Enough For You?
Yeah.
You used it on there.
Yeah.
So why, among other times, but why did you wait so long, do you think, to include it or incorporate it on here?
Because it was a perfect record.
Well, break it down.
This is my blackest fucking record. It's like what, 24 songs in here? Like
I remember
18 of them got black in it?
Yeah, I remember when I bought the cassette in Maryland, in Annapolis, Maryland. I went to the mall, or I had my parents take me, I should say, because I wasn't old enough yet. But when I got it, I remember reading the album titles, and I was like, black, 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 black. I was like, man, he's very on it this album.
Yeah, because I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I guess it was kind of just like, it was around that time where it's like, I don't know. It was sort of like people wanted the blackness to fade over money. Like, you shouldn't be so black because you won't have any white fans. I'm like, I already got white fans, and white fans like me because I am black. And RCA didn't understand that. So, oh, really? Now you're really gonna have to understand this. Black Jesus, black is, black because, black my ass. And since Get Off Your Ass and Jam was one of the first songs I heard on, quote unquote, official FM black radio, you have to have that shit on there.
Oh, it definitely works very well. And that's a phenomenal album, of course.
Yeah, and as you see, like, you know, Super Nigga.
Yeah.
You know, I got
Richard
no
Pryor.
problems from Richard Pryor with that.
Really?
None.
Really?
No. And shit. Some other song. Pussy Ain't Nothing But Meat on the Bone.
Jimi Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
They said yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you understand what I'm saying? That's like, so all the songs here belong on this record. They don't belong on Saturday Night.
Right.
They don't belong on Smoke Some Kill.
Okay.
They don't belong on the next record I did.
Another black album.
Another black album. That one was just like, I was just goofing with that one. I was just trying to see how far I can go.
Oh, you took it there.
Yeah, I took it there.
Now, here's some other Schoolie D records. We got the C.I.A. and we got Cold Blooded
Why?
Blitz. These are early in the game.
I almost quit from those records.
Why?
Because I was working with some cats who wound up turned out to be, years later, 25, 30 years later, he became mayor of Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah, and they came to me. They were doing a program called the City Mural Arts.
Okay.
And it was like, well, we'll pay you some money for your next record if you can write some songs about graffiti.
Okay.
And I did. And I was like, I did it, mastered it, took it home, listened to it, dropped them off. Record stores ordered them. I got home and I played it for myself. It was like, how the fuck can I sell out on record too? I felt like a sellout.
Okay.
Because somebody paid me. Because back then it was like nobody was. It was my money, my music, my beats. It was my thoughts. So I went back to all the record stores and distributors and was buying them back. But some of them already sold. That's how you got, whoever got this copy, that's how they got their copy. And I destroyed most of them. And some of them are sitting in the basement somewhere in West Philly. And every now and then, I got somebody from England shows up and they paid me $250 for a copy. But and that's that. Without this, there's no P.S.K. Gucci Time.
And why would you say that?
Because that was the challenge. It was like, well, if you feel like you sold out, then you have to do something. So you so fucking Parkside, so West Philadelphia,
Wow.
so our version of what rap is in Philadelphia. Not New York, not LA, so Philadelphia. That was the challenge.
And I remember you've told me this different times over the years, but that you heard the message and you heard these other records and you were like, well, what? That's not how we talk or how I talk on the block. I'm gonna say that on P.S.K.
Yeah, that's it.
So when you were writing it, could you feel the difference instantly?
Well, I didn't write, there's another thing. I didn't write my first 4 albums, didn't write a lot of that shit. It was just all recited.
Yeah.
And whatever I remembered was the song. I'd seen a documentary, James Brown, but you know, he was paranoid for reasons, so he never wrote all his lyrics down. He just wrote the first word down.
Wow.
And he would write it down on a napkin, and he would take it home and he would show up in the studio. That's why you hear those sounds. Yo, JB, bring it down. Well, take it back to the top. He never let anybody read his lyrics. So, and that's why they sound so real.
Right.
So I would just write down the first sentence of the verse.
Wow.
And whatever I remembered, that's what I remembered. And trust me, it was a lot of weed smoking back then. So, but it was a lot of rehearsal too. I rehearsed, because I made my own music, so I would just rehearse at home. We had a studio. My boy Lynn had a studio. He would let me use the studio before I would go to the recording studio. And I would rehearse for hours until they sound authentic. And that's the thing that almost get into fights when I say to kids, especially new rappers, it's like, yeah, but you don't sound authentic. Yeah, but it sounds like everybody else. No, but you don't sound authentic. Well, poets are not in existence too much these days.
Well, one of the many things about your material that I've always loved is that the evolution of it, but it also really sounds like almost nothing else that's out.
Because, I mean, but back then, from 85 to 90, it was nothing else.
Well,
there was no examples of anything.
Right.
Like we did have examples from New York, but everything was around 127, 130 beats to the beat, with the vibe to the beat.
Yeah, it was faster.
And it was just like kind of like, I'm not saying that shit. I want people to hear what the fuck I'm trying to say. And there was a lot of Cool Mule. If people don't understand, it's like 8 Ball from the West Coast. Cool Mule was just like liquid crack. You fucking drink that shit, and all of a sudden you're slurring your words, and all of a sudden you're just like, on the corner selling some weed, you know, see you motherfucker, and you smoke. So, but it was like, that's the way and then the way I talked, and if you listen to the music, it's like I'm an artist. See.
Well, that's something too that I think it's
Here's
important.
who I am.
Yeah, break it down.
Schoolie D is an artist who sometimes raps to get his point across. That's why my music is always different and strange.
Yeah, I've had the fortune of going to your house and stuff, and your loft, and all these different things, and seeing your paintings, your drawings. Yeah. But you also said, like, I want you to break down, because a lot of people probably don't know how you were like, you have different forms of your art, like different fingers. Yeah. So break it down.
I can't remember what I said.
Oh, that was really genius when you said it, but you're like, oh, I'm a drawer, I'm a painter, I'm a rapper, I'm a producer. But you were breaking it down. Well, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
But anyway.
It was probably 1 a.m. I was high. But that's the truth, though.
Yeah, but no.
I was watching George Clinton do an interview, and it was like this, and the interviewer was like, remember you told they were friends, like we're friends, and it was just like, he said, like, dude, same thing. It's not that we're lying, right? But at 1:45 a.m. or 4:45 a.m., they have, this the truth, but they just have a different flavor.
Well, speaking of that, I remember one time in Philly, I saw you at a rave, and then you did the Funkin' Pussy, and then we went out to eat at like 4:30 in the morning. Then I drove back to Maryland. So it's like, there's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
But it's all true.
Now, that being said, the other thing I was always intrigued about is not wanting to like try to find a producer or find all these collaborators. So why were you so in, I'm gonna do this myself?
Because I fired my first band at 9.
9?
9, I fired those fuckers. Because they wanted to go play football. And I was like, look, man, don't y'all want to grow up to be fucking rock stars? And it was like, well, we want to play football. Well, I was like, y'all fired, motherfucker. And they said, have fun. I said, have fun doing what? They said, playing all the instruments. So I had to learn how to play all the instruments. Right. That's why I played bass, guitar, little keys, and drums. And after talking to people, and it was like, well, since I'm an artist, it's personal. Like, nobody was going to create those beats. Nobody was going to, like, for instance, Gucci Time was a drum beat. And when the cats heard it, it was like, school, well, you might have to do it on the drum machine because black people don't play drums no more. This was 85, so people were moving away from Earth, Wind, and Fire and moving that the new sound was the 808 or the 909 or the Lindrum. So I had to, like, nobody was gonna program like I took it and some drummers tried to, like, drummers would get and they would try to diss me over P.S.K. And I found out I had a guy at Temple transpose like all my drum beats, said, dude, they just couldn't play it. Because it's like they couldn't fucking operate that shit because in their brain,
it doesn't register.
Somebody taught them to play drums this way.
Right.
And you taught yourself. And you came up with this music your own self, so nobody was going to be able to do it. So don't feel like, because, back in the 80s and stuff, like live musicians, they would try to make hip-hop musicians feel like we're nothing, we don't mean anything. Yeah. So nobody was going to, and it went along with the art because it was just like, oh, man, I had all these album covers, I got like every album cover, Overton Lloyd, Pedro Bell, all this, and it was like I studied that shit, and it was like, when I listened to their music, it was just like, the music is separate without the art, but it doesn't mean much without the art. The art is very good, awesome art, but all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? You got Mr. Wiggles, and you can see Mr. Wiggles.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's an experience.
Yeah,
it's a deeper experience.
It's a deep, yes, and it was, and I'm a pretty deep cat, so so I say. Everybody, elders, everybody who pretty much heard the music was just like, there's no way any of this was going to be played on the radio. So I had to make a decision. I made that decision, was like, well, I own records. And then it's like, okay, like Blowfly.
Right.
That record probably, it went gold. We heard it from the street.
Right. Not once on the radio.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, and he had a career. And I was like, well,
I can do that.
I can do that. If that's the way it's going to have to be. But up until Am I Black Enough For You? Because that was too black for black radio. They were forced to play my music because back then, the radio stations would call the record stores and say, well, what's selling? Just like, God damn it, school, they still selling that black motherfucker. We gotta play that black ass shit. Right. So they would call me up and say, do you have a radio edit? And I was like, nope. Do it yourself. So Lady B from Philadelphia, she started doing my radio edits. And I did one radio edit myself Saturday night. Okay. And I did it in the studio. I changed the words because like Two Live Crew was started to do it. Some of the guys from the West Coast were starting to make records like X-rated side, G-rated side. I tried that and was just like,
that's not you.
I almost stabbed that motherfucker who pressed that shit up. I was like, I couldn't stop the presses fast enough. And every now and then I'm somewhere, like I could be like in Amsterdam and it's on a jukebox and somebody plays Saturday night the radio version. I'm just like, makes me cringe. I cringe. When I hear that, I cringe.
I don't think I've ever heard the radio version.
Thank God.
I'm glad. But that being said, with radio, I know from our talks over the years, Lady B was instrumental in kind of teaching you stuff about the business and the fact
Yeah.
that they weren't going to play you. And if you haven't already, Schoolie gave me a great interview for my book, The History of Gangster Rap, and an exclusive piece of art. And forever indebted to you for that. But definitely check out the book if you haven't already. And thank you again, Schoolie, for that. But Lady B, you know, taught you a lot about the business early in the game.
Yeah.
So what were some of those lessons?
I can't say them on this. Well, she was the one. She was just like, look, if you wanna do this, it's just like, I'll help you out. Like she said, I'll make sure. Like because if you did the radio edits, it's like I remember she said you're gonna miss some things, and then she was telling me it's like it's about context.
Okay.
Content over context, like how you say, because people would say to me all the time, it's like, yes, and she would say, schools, it's like other people could say bitch and it'll go through, but when you say it, you sound like you really mean it. That's why a lot of people don't play your stuff.
Okay.
And she taught me like a lot about how like, you know, how to get paid
That's important.
performance-wise. Like what is my worth?
Okay.
You know, especially she said around holidays, it's like one of the tricks, around the holidays, your price is triple. No matter what you do, your price is triple because the club's prices are triple. On Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, and the day after Christmas. Those are the three highest paying gigs everybody makes.
Wow.
Yeah, so no matter what they say, if they say no, they're gonna come back and say, yeah, everything is triple.
That's a good lesson to learn. Okay.
Yeah.
And with P.S.K, I'd say is one of the most sampled songs in rap history.
Yeah.
When it started being used so much, what was happening in your mind? Like, wow, this is really happening that everybody's coming to me for this song.
I had a lawyer, and in like 1986, his name was Arthur Mann, and he said, I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna buy your publishing from you, just so you don't sell it to anybody.
I remember you told me he held it for you.
I'm gonna sell it back to you in 7 years for $35,000. The other thing is, the reason why is people are gonna sample your music. And I couldn't believe it because I'm like, that's still in the beginning. I was like thinking like, well, all these James Brown records, you know, Mandrill, all these funky. He said no. He said, your sound like nobody's gonna be able to recreate it. And even if they tried, it's gonna be futile because people are gonna know what they're trying to do.
Right.
And anything like this, especially back then with hip hop, you got to go to the original source. Because it's like, you heard people replay Funky Drummer on the 808. It didn't sound like,
It wasn't the same.
it wasn't, or the Lynn drum.
Right.
When Jimmy Jam, they would replay the Funky Drummer on the Lynn drum. And you know, so it was just like, something just don't,
It's not the same.
it's not the same.
Right.
So when it started happening, I didn't even know it was happening because I was working with Abel Ferrar. I was in the film business by then.
Right.
Because I left making music for records around 91.
You started doing all the scoring.
I started doing all the scoring, and I was like in San Francisco. I was in like Cannes. I was in Italy. You understand? So I was like all these places. So I was kind of like separate from what was going on. It's like, and I remember the first time I heard like Nice and Smooth, that mix. It was like all these mixes. I thought they were radio mixes, and it was like, nah, these are actual records. So by the time I brought back my publishing, it was worth $1 million because of all these. It was like Susie and the Banshees, all these people, television, movies, scores. It's like people were just using it, and all the songs were going gold and platinum.
Right. They were big.
They were big.
Case.
Yeah,
That's
Case,
another one.
yeah.
Among many. Biggie.
Yeah,
Biggie.
yeah, Biggie, yeah. So it was. So I didn't. It was in the back of my mind, but it wasn't. I was like too it was like being a film composer, man. That's just like working with Abel Ferrara. Was like that was a year-round thing because you get a script, and then 2 years later you got to read it, and then 2 years later that's when they need the music. So it was like I was having too much fun hanging out with actresses, and and it was just like a record label budget was like this, and a movie budget was like that, and you know what I'm saying. So I got to hang out in HBO studios and shit like that. So I was having a ball, but I didn't diss hip hop, but it was just kind of just like I moved to my next phase of what I wanted to do, and being a film composer was one of the things I wanted to do, and that was my opportunity.
So with you get into the film composition, but then taking it back with P.S.K. and Gucci Time, one of the things, and even going all the way back to Gangster Boogie, one thing that I don't think you get a lot of credit for is storytelling. Because you had so many stories within stories and different stories on the same song.
Yeah.
So why, first of all, why do you think people don't look at you as a storyteller rapper?
I think people look at me as a phenomenon.
And break that down. What do you mean?
Well, I'm not associated with any rap crews. I don't troll the rap crew circuit or the rapper circuit. I'm not on the internet constantly telling people how badass I am or how better I am than anybody else. And another thing is like I don't think people know how to approach me. They don't know what they're gonna say to me. It's like, what are you gonna say to somebody who helped create some masterminds, a subgenre of music?
Right.
What are we gonna talk about? What am I gonna talk about to you? So kind of just like, and I'm from Philly, and it's like especially with a lot of documentaries for some reason, they go from New York, they skip over Philly, they go to LA, then Atlanta.
Right.
And it's like, when you really look at Philadelphia, it's like, without Philadelphia and with Philadelphia, hip hop is totally different.
It's very different without
Because
Philly.
just like me, Gangster Rap, Will Smith, first Grammy, Jazzy Jeff, Cash Money, one of the first. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's like Beanie Siegels and all those.
Some of the best DJs are from Philly.
And without, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Without that grittiness, hardcoreness, it's like, it's hip hop would be hip hop, but it'd be different.
Right.
With Philadelphia, hip hop and rap is different.
Yeah.
And we're so close to New York, it's kind of just like, that's just like I said, just like people, they don't know what to say to me, how to come at me. Because if you can't come at me with that same old bullshit about like how much money we gonna make, how much bank, how much gold, how many, like I can wear a fucking pair of underwear in my head and get bitches. You know what I'm saying? Fuck. As far as, it's like for me, it's like, well, look, it's like this. Especially nowadays, people think the money makes the art.
Right.
Me, it's the art that makes the money.
Right.
You have to have the art first. And how many cats are like that?
Not many.
Me and Cool Keith.
It's
Chuck
a chosen
D.
few. A
It's
chosen
few. So it's kind of like, especially today, you have to be, and I talk to Ice and I talk to Chuck, and it's like, man, how do y'all do that shit? How do y'all wake up in the morning and just like, I wake up in the morning, I got 16 tweets from you two motherfuckers. How the fuck, it's like, how do you even do it? And they tell me, well, you have to have done it or started 10 years ago, school.
Right.
You can't.
Jump in now.
And I'm not trying to jump in there, but it's just like, if you're not, if you're talking about what people think about today is, okay, it's like Buddy Miles. That motherfucker, Buddy Miles, is one of the baddest drummers and singers at the same time. Anybody who's anybody knows that shit.
Right.
Anybody who's anybody, when I meet cats, when I see cats that know exactly what you just said. But still a lot of cats don't know, they ask me like, who did the music? And I'd say I do, and then mine is blown to like a whole whole other way. Then people say, and you did the art, and you did the music, and you did.
And
so
it was on your label.
And it was on my label. So it's kind of like, cats like Biggie, and Big Daddy Kane, those motherfuckers are known because lyricists, because it was like, that's what they did, and that's what's promoted what they did. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's like the sudden rise of Kanye was first known for doing all those beats and stuff. Right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when you fit in a box, it's kind of like, it's easier for people to say, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? But
you just are in a big box.
Yeah, it's in a big box, but it's like, that's not the thing for the music business.
Right. So, Schoolie, one of the many things is I wanted to get the breakdown. We're sitting in a black and yellow room, thanks to you. But I wanted to get, what is the breakdown of your color scheme?
I think it was either the 69 or the 72 Super B. One of my neighbors had it. They were yellow. You know what the Super B is?
I know of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You gotta fucking show a picture of Super B. Those fucking colors. And it was, I think it was a Camaro. When I was growing up, the yellow and the black cars, muscle cars, was the hottest colors. Another thing is, when I went to pick my colors for my label, I went to Funko Mart, and Chino was just like, well, if you wanted to sell, look at all the labels up there. What are the two colors you don't see?
Okay.
Yellow and black. There was no yellow. And they said another thing, what else don't you see? Everything was so professionally done. I wanted mine to be, I wanted to say, this is for the hood. I always want to say, this is us. This is me doing this for you. So it was like yellow and black because it was going to stand out, and it had to be hand done, hand drawn.
Well, you did.
And because of the Super B, because it's like that was the baddest. Those colors, man. You're probably too young for this shit, man. But man, that's it. So this stands out. That stood out anywhere.
Yeah, it did. And speaking of the label, Schoolie D Records wasn't just for Schoolie D. You had other artists on there too.
Yeah.
Here's a Royal Ron, Pimp Pretty's Things, rocks the B-Boy stance. One of the several records you guys put out.
It was a pain in my fucking ass too.
Why is that?
All artists are pain. I signed about 4 artists. Those motherfuckers was. Well, one tragic story. I signed these 2 cats from Baltimore. I told you that story.
Yep.
And the day they were coming to Philly to sign, they got murdered.
Yeah.
Jealousy. Yeah. Because back in the day, we had the sunroof. Instead of carjacking that way, people just put the gun in the sunroof, shoot you, and then drag you out. It was horrible. Another one was just like, it was, those motherfuckers, man, they always was getting somebody pregnant. I was always getting somebody pregnant. I had this one motherfucker gonna say anything, his name started with an R. This motherfucker, and then another cat, his name started with a C. I mean, one year they must have got 10 girls pregnant.
Really?
I was like, what? It was, and Pimp Pretty were around. We all grew up together. Man, those motherfuckers, man, they would have stabbed each other if they shoved each other off the fucking stage.
Really?
It was like the artists, and the thing is, like I said before, it was personal. It was Schoolie D Records was before Schoolie D.
Right.
But it was kind of like Chris Schwartz. It was like, well, Schoolie, we can't put out 5 Schoolie D albums in a year like George Clinton did, because he had 80 motherfuckers and 3 bands.
Right.
So of course he could do that. So he says, you're gonna have to start to keep revenue going. And I had 13 employees. You're going to start signing some acts and doing some stuff. And it was kind of like, I thought that all the acts had independent
thinkers as
well as I was. I thought it was like I would sign them and they would be self-produced, self-contained, and they would just bring the records to me but no, that didn't happen.
They were produced by Schoolie D.
Yeah, but it was like, those motherfuckers, man, artists suck. And and which made me have this tiny soft spot in my heart for record labels. I think in the beginning, with a lot of artists, and it depends on what kind of artists they are. Some of the ones that wonder, some of them are real artists like Marvin Gaye. You know what I'm saying? That they're really, so it's like they do spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of grooming.
Right.
But I think when they get to the point, if they get to a second or third album, I think if they're still there, the money should really flip over from like, you know, the artist should be making 70% and the record label should be making 25% because,
Makes
you
sense.
know, but in the beginning, those sons of bitches, man, it was.
That's one of the things, like you said, though, I think people always forget all that back in the day, especially when you're traveling and doing all that stuff. You haven't sold a record yet.
Yeah.
So how are they're just putting this faith in you. They're spending tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. And you haven't generated a dollar.
You haven't generated a dollar yet.
Not a cent even.
But like I said, you get the third album or CD, and then you start making that company money, I think it should be reversed.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you need to start robbing those motherfuckers like I did.
Well, speaking of which, given the success that you had, you ended up putting out the Saturday Night album more than once. You put it out on Schoolie D Records first, then you got with Jive.
Yeah.
And the thing that I thought was interesting about it is that you were using, and this was, I think, really the main first photo we ever saw with Schoolie.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to put your photo on the Saturday Night and draw the cover?
Well, because I'm pretty good looking. I had the fucking fro. It was a curly box and shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, people were going around, one of the stories is people were going around, because everybody thought this was a School of D, so people were going around, especially in Baltimore, pretending to be me.
I remember
Nobody knew what School of D looked like. So people were like, well, School, you got to put your picture somewhere on your album cover so people can definitely see exactly who you are. And I think in an original, it even had like, it's still there, it had the phone number, you can call me for bookings and shit.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So that's why I started putting my face on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I forgot to ask on one of the things that you also did, like on freestyle rapping, you said, no, getting high. I know you're getting high, but I'm not drug dealing.
Right.
And then you used that again on another poem on Smoke Some Kill.
Right.
So you used some of your same phrases later and different. Do you remember why you would do that?
Yeah, because George Clinton did that.
Okay.
And George Clinton said, no song is ever done, no lyric is ever not to be reused.
Okay.
So he did, he did one song, like on 5 albums at every
album.
you know what I'm saying?
EPMD
Because it got better. And sometimes you smoking, you don't remember.
It's a recurring theme with School.
You don't remember if you used it. It just sounds good at that moment.
But
or sometimes it's on purpose because you want to like, you want to get the point across. You don't think you got it.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like sometimes it's so buried into a song. It's kind of like I don't think they got it, and then you use another song and say, well, I'm gonna pull it out and see if they get it this time.
Okay. And to that point too, as the creator of gangster rap, and it's morphed into so many different things. Some people look at it positively, negatively, but on P.S.K. and even on Parkside 5-2, you say on a quarter selling weed is my friend Mike, I can't say that it's wrong or that is right.
Right.
So like you're breaking down, and on P.S.K. you talk about, no, my educated mind, I'm not doing the crime, I don't want to do the time, all that stuff. How did you blend being this character, this crazy dude, but also having this consciousness?
Because those songs, that was the real part of me. Because, and especially today, because of like all the ghost guns and the semi-automatics and the automatics, those pistols are so fun to shoot. I have a funny raccoon story if you want to hear it. But it's like, and like with revolvers, it's like everybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care how fucked up you are, you have a moment right before you squeeze the trigger to say, am I going to be a murderer or am I not going to be a murderer?
Right.
And if you feel like you got something to live for, you're not going to be a murderer. If you feel like you have nothing to live for, or what you want to live for is the acknowledgement of dick faces, you become a murderer.
Right.
Or, I mean, but there's also that 1 or maybe 5% chance was like somebody did something really fucked up to you or your family, and you know goddamn well the system is not going to do shit, and this person is going to fucking shit grin you for the rest of their goddamn life. That's when you become a murderer. And that's only like 2 to 5% of the time.
Yeah, that's rare.
That's very rare. And you gotta live in the same neighborhood with that motherfucker. That's very rare. Because that's what they ask you to do.
Right.
That's what the system asks you to do. They ask you to not care about something that deep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a travesty.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things in gangster rap, and like I did in my book.
And when Mike did sell weed, his mother didn't know he sold weed. He was like, dude, you snitched me the fuck out, you black motherfucker. I was like, dude, I thought everybody knew you sold weed. She said, not my mother. Not my mother. My mother asked me about that shit.
She heard the song?
Yeah, she was like, well, why would he put it in the song? Why do now I don't know why these people be coming in the house 1, 2 o'clock in the morning all the time. I snitched my man out. I didn't know. I thought everybody knew he sold weed. You know what I'm saying?
At least a few people did.
Yeah.
If he was staying busy.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. But I always remember those type of things because as I was learning about more of this stuff, like you and a lot of the other greats, Ice-T, etc., always put that in there, the lessons. It wasn't just chaos.
Yeah, I mean, we did come from the Black Panther era, which there was a lot of lessons.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Langston Hughes, you know what I'm saying? We came from that era, where it's like you just didn't do shit willy-nilly. You definitely had the answer for why you just did something like that. Opposed to like, as time went on, it was like, well, as long as you got paid.
Right. Different mentality.
It's like, as long as you got paid. People go, oh yeah, as long as you got paid. You got paid, did you? Yes. So that became the crutch for everybody in America. I mean, everybody. Doesn't matter the color. It's like, if you got paid doing it, it was okay. So before that, it was just like, as long as you're getting paid, it was like, you got to answer for your crime. Answer like, why did you do that?
All right. Well, there it is. Well, Schoolie D, thanks so much for coming through to Unique Access, man.
We were supposed to go through all this shit.
We didn't have time, man.
That shit was not going to happen.
Because we get talking, and it's like, time flies.
Yeah.
As it always does.
So I didn't even know I did all this shit, but I guess I did, didn't I?
Yes,
I guess I fucking did. There you go.
Well, there it is. Well, Schoolie, always a pleasure, man.
All right, I'm going to go sleep. I got shit to do tomorrow.